Hello everyone, welcome to Inconvenient Truths. I'm your host, Jennifer Zeng. Today I will talk about two topics. One example of how the CCP's social credit score system works, how this system can come to your city too, and how the Quit the CCP movement may dissolve the CCP from within in 5 years. A while ago, I shared a piece of news from Liberty Times in Taiwan. The report says that the Vancouver branch of China's famous restaurant chain Haidilao Hotpot has more than 60 cameras installed in it, with 2 cameras at each table. Recorded images of employees and customers are sent back to China. The manager of this restaurant, Ran Pan, confirmed that the news is true, but refused to disclose what the purpose is, saying that it is a secret. Actually, this news was first broken by the Sunday Guardian with the title, China's Social Credit Program Creeps into Canada. Obviously, these cameras are part of the CCP's social credit score system, which is used to monitor all the citizens and decide what kind of treatment they can get based on their scores. What's frightening about this news is China's restaurants such as Haidilao Hotpot and Chinese stores are everywhere in the world now. How do we know how many of them and which ones are collecting data for the CCP? And another challenge is, even if we know, is there any way that we can stop them from doing it? It seems that the CCP is not only collecting data of Chinese citizens, but also Chinese people living overseas, as well as people of other nationalities. This news also reminded me of a true story I heard recently from a Falun Gong practitioner who just escaped from China. By the way, in case you don't know, Falun Gong is a peaceful mind, body, and spirit self-improvement system, including meditation. It originated in China in 1992 and has been under the most severe persecution since 1999. So this Falun Gong practitioner told me that back in 2019, she and her husband, who is also a Falun Gong practitioner, took the train to Beijing, but were stopped and ordered to get off at the station just before Beijing. It turned out that the local police had already found out that they had bought train tickets via the social credit score system. So the local police urgently contacted the railway police, and the railway police located them on the train and ordered them to get off. After getting off the train, they had no other choice but to buy 2 return tickets. When they called the local police as ordered by the railway police, the local police said that he already knew that they had bought return tickets. When I heard this story, I was really scared. So that's how advanced this system already is and how tightly it can monitor and control people. Chinese people have a saying called 裸奔, which means running on the street with a naked body. So it feels like everybody in China is now running on the street with a naked body. So I wrote up a short piece about this story and published it at my own website. After I shared it on Facebook, someone left such a comment saying that, when I was in China, I knew a Falun Gong practitioner who was a native of Wuxi City and worked in Shandong province, and he went home to visit his family once a month. Every time he left Wuxi for Shandong, as soon as his ticket was scanned, a large group of police officers immediately came over to turn his luggage upside down and carefully searched everything. Another person left a comment on Twitter saying that if this Falun Gong couple were in China now, they wouldn't be able to buy the train tickets in the first place. I think these stories are especially relevant now as there are a lot of similarities between this system and the vaccine passport system we are talking about. I think this really is another grave challenge we have to deal with in this digital era we are living in now. Sometimes I do wonder, what will the so-called modern science and technology bring us if they are in the hands of people who have evil intentions? I think we all should think hard about this question. Next, let's move to our second topic today. On April 20th, the number of people who have published their declarations to withdraw from the CCP, its Youth League, and the Young Pioneers exceeded 376 million. This is a new milestone for this grassroots 退党, meaning Quit the Party movement that started in China in 2004. The figure 376 million has far surpassed the number of people who withdrew from the Soviet Communist Party before the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. This number also accounts for 26.8% of China's total population. In other words, at least 1 out of every 4 people have declared their opposition to the CCP and resigned from the CCP-related organizations. You might ask, is that possible? And will this 退党 movement trigger the disintegration of the CCP? Let's discuss this in detail. Withdrawing from the CCP, its Youth League, and the Young Pioneers is also referred to as 3 withdrawals by Chinese people. The 退党 website is where 3 withdrawal statements are published. In the communist system, besides the Communist Party, there are also the Communist Youth League and the Young Pioneers under its control. In China, elementary school is compulsory. Children go to elementary school at 6 and graduate at 12. The CCP requires almost all elementary school students to join the Young Pioneers, and joining it is regarded as a badge of honor. And every child is requested to raise his or her right fist to make a pledge to the red Young Pioneers flag. They must swear, quote, "I am a member of the Young Pioneers of China. Under the flag of the Young Pioneers, I pledge to love the CCP, the motherland, and the people, to study well, to exercise well, and to be ready at any moment to contribute all my strength to the cause of communism," unquote. That is to say, under the communist system, children as young as 6 years old are forced to swear an oath to be ready to contribute all their strength to communism before they understand what a political party is or what socialism or communism is. When the children enter high school, they are asked to join the Communist Youth League. Again, the students are required to raise their right fist and make this pledge, quote, "I pledge to join the Chinese Communist Youth League voluntarily. I firmly support the leadership of the CCP, abide by the Constitution of the Youth League, carry out its resolutions, fulfill its obligations as a member, strictly abide by its discipline, study diligently, work actively, make contributions and suffer hardships before others, let others take the benefits before me, and strive hard for the cause of communism," unquote. The oath of membership in the CCP is somewhat similar, but with a different deadly ending that vows to sacrifice everything. The current version, which was established in 1982, goes like this, quote, "I pledge to join the CCP voluntarily. uphold the party's guidelines, abide by the party's constitution, fulfill my obligations as a member, carry out the party's decisions, strictly abide by the party's discipline, keep the party's secrets, be loyal to the party, work actively, strive for the communism for my entire life, be ready to sacrifice everything for the party and the people at any moment, and never betray the party." Unquote. So the CCP requires its members to sacrifice everything and never betray the party. Everything, of course, includes one's life, right? Never betray the party means you are a slave for life. If you betray, the CCP has the right to punish you and even to kill you, as you have made such a deadly oath yourself, right? So is this CCP a political party? Definitely not. Its oath sounds like that of an evil cult, a mafia, and a criminal gang. Since the CCP is the ruling party in China, members of the CCP can enjoy many benefits. As a result, the number of people who can be approved to join the CCP is small. At present, the number of CCP members in China is less than 100 million out of a population of 1.4 billion, and the percentage of party members in the population is less than 7%. However, over 95% of Chinese people have joined the Young Pioneers, which means that out of a population of 1.4 billion, the maximum number of people who can possibly make a free withdrawal statement is 1.3 billion. The Trade-on movement, which is also called the Three Withdrawals movement, was triggered by the editorial series 9 Commentaries on the Communist Party, first published in the Chinese language edition in the Epoch Times on November 19, 2004. The 9 Commentaries on the Communist Party comprehensively exposes the bloody killing history of the CCP and gives an in-depth analysis of the deceptive, violent, cultish, and rogue nature of the CCP in different areas of history, politics, economy, culture, and faith. Part 7 of the 9 Commentaries is titled "On the Chinese Communist Party's History of Killing." It states that under the rule of the CCP, 60 to 80 million innocent Chinese people have been killed, leaving their broken families behind. This number exceeds the total number of deaths in both world wars combined. So since 1949, the CCP has persecuted more than half of the people in China. On January 12, 2005, the Epoch Times published a statement calling for Chinese people to withdraw from the CCP and its related organizations. On February 22, 2005, more than 10 organizations, including the Epoch Times Media Group, the Farewell to the CCP Islands, and Global Coalition to Bring Jiang Zemin to Justice, and the 9 Commentary website, etc., joined forces to establish the Global Service Center for Quitting the CCP, a non-profit service organization that assists people with the 3 withdrawals. Because the CCP is a dictatorship, Chinese people are under strict control. So for safety reasons, many people choose pseudonyms when they publish their 3 withdrawal statements. They believe that God sees people's hearts and they can undo their deadly pledges made to the CCP by disavowing them. When people submit their statements, a unique number is created for them by the Global Service Center for Quitting the CCP. People can track the status of their statements by using this unique number. Volunteers at the Global Service Center for Quitting the CCP check the statements to ensure that they are authentic before they can be released online. After the statement is published, a certificate in both English and Chinese becomes available for the submitter to download and print out. A noticeable phenomenon during the early stages of the Tweedang movement was that a significant number of the 3 withdrawals came from the CCP, the top echelons of the CCP, including officials of the State Council, ministries, the National People's Congress, the Central Party School, and provincial and municipal cadres. For example, a person from the State Council used the name Hua Tianmin to submit a statement on December 27, 2004. The statement reads, "It was against my will to become a henchman. I want to say sorry to the Chinese people. I only hope that the CCP can be ended sooner." He signed off stated that he was a member of a certain office of the State Council. There were also senior cadres of the Public Security and Justice Departments, including the Ministry of National Security, the Ministry of Justice, and the military, including the Navy and Beijing Military Region. One statement published under the name of Li Bochun on December 22, 2004 reads, "I'm a retired technical cadre of national defense with 43 years of military experience and more than 30 years of party membership. I used to believe whatever my supervisors said, but it was only after I retired that I really understood the evil nature of the CCP." Another statement published on December 22, 2004 under the name of Li Lingying states, "I was once a military cadre. I was deceived and believed in the CCP. However, the naked truth of the CCP's evil cult nature has now been completely exposed. I have been following closely this evil cult for over a decade. Although I didn't do anything bad, I nonetheless have also empowered it. Today, I finally understand. I hereby solemnly declare my withdrawal from the communist cult." A statement by a China Central Television (CCTV) reporter reads, "Enough is enough. Today I officially disassociate myself from all relations with them. I was a reporter for the TV station for many years, and I see through their hypocrisy. I have been deceived by the party under the propaganda of lies, and today I officially disassociate myself from all relations with them." We all know that on December 25, 1991, the Soviet Union, the world's first communist regime, collapsed. And before the collapse of the Soviet Union, there was a wave of resignation from the Communist Party, with more than 20% of its members having left the party. Similarly, the Tweedang movement in China has empowered about 27% of the Chinese population to reject the CCP in one way or another so far. The current number of Chinese people who have rejected the CCP is more than the 20% of communist members who quit the Soviet Union before it collapsed. So why hasn't the CCP fallen yet? China expert Shi Shan told the Epoch Times that there are many reasons, but the main two are: first, the CCP is the most powerful ruling group in the history of mankind in terms of controlling people. No other regime in history or in the world has been like the CCP, which not only controls where people can live through a household registration system, but also controls people's beliefs and thoughts, their jobs, family life, and even how many children they can have. With the assistance of high technology, the CCP today uses the most invasive surveillance methods to control everyone's daily lives, like the so-called social credit score system we just talked about today. Communist rule is like a high-pressure cooker, making people inside unable to move. Second, the CCP uses the mainland market as bait, linking the economy to politics to draw in international capital investment in China that brings in nutrient and blood to the critically ill body of the CCP, allowing it to continue to survive. However, the tide of the 退党 movement has already started to dismantle the CCP from within. Although many people did not openly disclose their true identity when they withdrew and were still working for the CCP to make a living on the surface, they had essentially separated themselves from the CCP in their hearts. Once the external environment changes, this internal opposition force will contribute to the rapid collapse of the CCP. Based on the current rate of the 3 withdrawals, there are at least 50,000 people withdrawing per day. This means more than 20 million in a year. In 5 years, more than 100 million more people will have withdrawn. So, by 2026, the total number of 3 withdrawals could reach 500 million, which accounts for 35% of China's total population. This also means that at least 1 out of 3 people will have withdrawn. So, Shishan said by that time the CCP will disintegrate from within, just like the Soviet Communist Party. Well, that's all for today's Inconvenient Truths. I hope this sounds like good news to you. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and take some time to leave us a comment and share my videos to your friends and family. Thank you so much. See you next time.